In the previous episode of the medical attack vehicle ambulance build, we put in the vinyl sheet flooring in the kitchen area, which will be the kitchen. Really turned out nice, but it is time to finish the whole rest of the floor. All this area back here needs to be carpeted, and that is my favorite thing to see, is when the carpet comes in, because when that comes in, everything just looks finished. I've done carpet before in a square flat room. This is going to be a bit more of a challenge. This is the carpet I picked out. It came from Lowe's. It's a gray carpet. I have used this before in a rental property. It's more of a commercial carpet. It's extremely durable. It's got a little bit of a texture to it, and I found it to be very stain repellent. If it gets to be a little damaged, it's kind of modeled. You don't notice it if there's a little burn mark or a little permanent stain, but I've never really had anything permanently stain on this. I've even used bleach accidentally to clean something, and it didn't take the color out. I don't put a pad under it. That's just something I think that absorbs moisture, and it's thick enough where it has a little bit of give. So the first thing, you have to buy it by the linear foot, and each linear foot is 12 feet long. So that means I got way too much. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm laying it out and trying to get some of the creases. What was in the van, it got hot and it twisted and it was bent. So now I've got some crease in it, so I need to lay that out and let it get flat. There's some plates in the floor, which is where the stretchers had some connection points, and I tried with Allen wrenches and everything, and they're just corroded in. So what's going to happen is I'm going to have some bumps here, and it's just something I'm going to have to live with. I think by the time I get the sofa in here and the bed and all that going on, I don't think it'll be all that noticeable. So the first thing I'm going to do is try and get it started on an edge, since I have to go up and over and down and up and over. I want to make sure I got an edge here. I want to make sure it's really tacked down, because everything I'm going to do is going to be amplified as I go to the right. So I'm going to start off with just stapling this down here, kind of temporarily staple that in there to make sure I've got a fixed point. So here I've lined up the edge where they cut the carpet, because that's going to be your best line to know where you're at. So I put that up against the wall and just have my staple gun, and I'm just going to put a few staples along the edge here that'll be under, put them pretty close to the edge so they'll be under a trim board. And if it doesn't go quite all the way in, take the hammer and drive it on down in there. So hopefully trim board will cover that up. If not, I can come back later with a flathead screwdriver and pop that out. But I'm going to do that on this edge here, get this all tacked down, make this cut. And then I'm going to get a trim piece and go ahead and put it on here. I'm just going to slowly work my way across the room. So I've pulled the carpet out here, so there's a bit of a slope here. And what I'm going to do is that's going to allow me to put my knees right into here and pull that carpet really tight. And then here is my aluminum angle. I neglected to measure my box before I started, so I just cut it long on both sides. And I'll go back at the end and recut it later. But I'm going to go ahead and take screws, and I pre-drilled with an 1/8" bit these holes on both the top and the side, and I'm going to screw this down while I'm putting pressure on it. Alright, so now I've got the top of that box firmly anchored. The next thing I need to do is very, very carefully cut this edge here so that this piece can drop down flat, and then I'll have to put a new piece in on the side. So I'm using my straight edge to kind of keep me in line and just go very carefully. There's some room for error because there'll be another trim piece over there, but I'm going to try and cut this right along the edge. So here I've made my cut, and this is all continuous down here. It'll stay continuous. I'm going to put another trim piece down here to bolt that in and tight in. But now my problem here is this is just a really short, it's a 3/4 inch, I believe. So to come here, make the turn, and make the turn again isn't going to work. The carpet's just too thick. So what I am going to do is I'm going to have to cut the carpet right here on the edge. But it's easy because I'm just going to fold it back here, and then I can just take my knife and follow along and make that cut. So here I've made my cut. So I can just flip this over like this, and then my trim will hide my little cuts. And I've got extra on the end, so if the cut isn't just perfect, no problem, I can trim it up a little bit more. One thing I had forgotten is that the floor slopes slightly downhill here. It's not a whole lot, But what was happening was I couldn't get that carpet to get all the way up in there without throwing off the whole angle of the floor. So I went ahead and took my knife and just cut this out. And the gap down here is big enough. Put your finger in, and then I cut another one of these. It's the same thing as what's up here. I'm just going to reverse it and put it down here. I also put a few staples across the bottom to make sure it didn't bunch out. And so I'll just screw that in now. I also cut off the end here so that I could get a proper measurement for these two pieces. Alright, so this one is such a little tight angle. It's so small. Not only did I have to cut the carpet, I also put staples in here to help hold it down, and then I've got a smaller piece of angled aluminum, which is going to fit just like that over that edge and hold it down. Alright, so this kind of should give you an idea how things are going to look. I will put another piece of metal trim here and here. Wood trim along the bottom there, painted gray. This little trim piece looks good right here. And then I'll need to patch in a piece of carpet here. Put a metal trim here and here. Wood trim there. Maybe okay just to leave it here. Don't know anything there. Wood trim over here. So I'm just going to repeat the whole process and do it for the other side. So really good day today. Didn't get finished, but got a good ways into it. So left side, center and left side is about done. And then still need to do all the cuts over here. Something I found out that did make it a good bit easier too is once I cut it here, then pulled it up tight and stapled it along here, and then pulled it tight again, what I'll do is pull it tight again and staple it again here, such that both of the staple lines are going to be under the trim piece. That seems to keep this nice and flat. So that worked out pretty well. And then over here, this is what the wood trim boards will look like around the outside edge. So I'll take this board off, cut the carpet right here, and it'll go under there. Gotta figure out how to work this over here, not quite sure. The flooring is complete, and I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Got all the trim work done, the metal work, the wood work. Carpet laid out beautifully. Transition. So I learned some things on this project. The transition's pretty easy to do. I put the wood trim up here, and what I do with the wood trim is I know it's important to have a slope right here. It kind of helps the dirt and dust kind of fall off, and then I have a little spot here, so I made that all myself. On the metal trim work, I started off with trying to cut angles in these to have them meet up, but that makes this edge way too thin, and it'll flip, it'll break, it'll bend. It's impossible to do. So then I started notching out pieces to try to meet it up, but then after a while with working on it, I found out something that makes it a whole lot easier. You can, since the carpet has a lot of give to it, it's almost impossible to get a good measurement. For example, over here, you can see how this measurement was off because by the time you screw everything down, it all shifts because of the carpet. So what I've learned is if you'll overlap them, like this one. So here, it's overlapped like this. So this one sits a little higher than this one. But the great thing about the carpet is you can adjust the height of these based on how far you screw these in. So what I did here is this one screwed in just a little bit more, and then this one is screwed down just a little bit less, so it sits just a tiny bit above it. See there? But when you're up here and everywhere else, there's no way you can tell that. So I boxed all that in. I put a transition over here. I couldn't get this piece of metal up because of these here. I don't know how these are bolted in. Couldn't get those up, so I just went and cut around them. I put metal here and metal here. I think that'll be nice for rubbing. A little bit of wood trim there, trying to match it in. Comes across here. And then finally, trimmed out my little door here. And here again, you can kind of see how the corners all came together and how that one piece sits a little bit higher. And so there it is. Now, I went and I ordered the sofa, and I've got a great sofa picked out. It's a huge sofa, and it's going to be wonderful in this space, but it won't be here for 2 or 3 weeks. So the next thing I'm going to do in the next video is add in the 5000 BTU 450 watt air conditioner. And I'm going to, all this new work, I'm going to cut a great big hole in it. I'm going to cut a hole in this and a hole here, and the air conditioner will inset from the bay outside, and hopefully you'll just pretty much see the vent here and a little opening here for the air intake. So I'm going to get to work on that in the next video. I hope to see you there.